So let's wait. There's nobody yet. I hope people will. Somebody's there, even though Facebook is not showing. So I'm sorry about the connection. I don't know why my iPad just don't have a decent connection, even though it's literally one bedroom house. So I hope things will be more stable on my phone. I should have done with it from the beginning. That's good. Okay, I see now people coming back. That's great. Thank you for coming back. And I hope this is the last. Like the iPad is much easier to work, but I have no idea why the connection is so problematic there. So I have to see you in the small screen of my phone. But let's get back to business. So today is cashew and almonds. There are a few things that I want to talk about it. And I would be happy if I post some comments, if you if you say something, that'd be great, because then I know what if people are hearing, if people have questions, if I'm being clear. I know there's delay between what I say and what you react, but just so you know, I would like this to be a bit more interactive. Hello, Hosanna. So if I post questions, say something, just so I know, yeah, I've been listening, people are listening, and then we can move on. So the first question that I have actually is, who did anybody of you, I think Giga probably did, but any of you who did cashew curdle cheese, not like just a cashew paste, but cashew curdle cheese, say yes or like, so I know if people know what I'm talking about or not. So we have 4 people here, but it'd be interesting to know if all of you do it or not with cashew curdle cheese. And by curdling, it's quite different a cashew curd. So for all of you, including those that don't know about it, so curdling is the protein binding. So you do on normal cheese, on dairy cheese is a curdled dairy milk. There is soybeans, soy milk, which you turn into tofu. That's also curdled milk. And then you have a variety of ingredients. And cashew is very special because it feels like it was just curdle as something like everything else. I'm sorry, I just realize I have a milk here that I need to stir. That you can curdle like anything else, everything else, but it's not like the same. So you don't curdle cashew the same way as you do with other things like almonds, and that's because the content of protein of cashews is lower, and cashew, in opposite, differently from most all of other nuts, it's very rich on starches, and starches is what usually you would have in wheat, oats, or something like that, and then you have starches in a very high amount of starches in cashews. So curdling cashews, you mean that you are cooking the starches plus curdling, which wouldn't be the same as in, for example, almond milk. That's why cashew curdling is a bit tricky, and I haven't seen, except for my method, I haven't really seen anything like curdling cashew milk before. And there is a huge difference between curdling cashew and other ingredients. So this is already a curdled milk cashew, but this is a pudding. Like, you wouldn't say, oh, this is a cheese. This is not gonna to be turn into cheese, but it actually will, because it contains a lot of moisture, and this moisture needs to drain, to be removed, to be drained out of the cheese. And the way to do it is like any other curdled product, is with a cheese form. So with the cheese form, I could divide this paste that I cooked. This is cascoda, same as the last video. I just did this time I did exactly the cascoda recipe, not with more water, but the result is very similar. So what I'm doing now is literally just putting this kind of pudding into the cheese form, and I'm gonna press it. And if you see it, it's like, oh, this is a pudding. If you try to do this with starch, like corn starch, water, and make a pudding, and try to add a transcontaminator Vizyme into it and try to press it, it won't turn well because that's not a curdle. That's not a curd. There's no protein in it. There's nothing to hold the shape. And a curdle cheese is exactly that binding together the proteins, so you have a structure which is the cheese itself. So if I show you, this is pressing, and let me get a plate. So you're gonna see by the end of this live that some water has been drained. So I am just leaving this in here, and then it's gonna drain. And after you, usually what you do after you press the cheese, so this guy will stay here for a couple of hours until it holds the shape, the excess water has pushed away, and then you have something holding together. And this is an almond one, but it's very similar. What you get also with cashews, if you see my videos, it's basically a cheese, right? This is just a cheese, as expected a cheese should be, but this is almond. And almond will hold better the shape. This won't is release a little bit of curds, but it's not like a paste that will just go into your fingers. It is actually curds that if you play around, you see, oh, they keep their shape, which is very similar to dairy cheese, but not very similar to cashews. And again, the reason for that is because cashews have starches which will be bind together in this mix, and bacteria won't eat out the starches. That means that they will stay there for a long time. They affect the flavor somehow. They affect the texture, and they are just holding a lot of water and a lot of moisture. So that's why you won't see a drainage like you would do in tofu or normal cheese or in almond cheese. And this is the guide that I did the other day. So on Wednesday, this is a cashew cheese. This is very similar to what I just did here, but a little bit more water. And what happens here is that if I cut it to show you a piece of it, so you can see it holds quite nicely the shape. Like it's not a paste. It's not like a cream or something, but still it's not like if you really press together, you see, oh, it is again a paste. But that's why cashews is trickier to work with than you would have with with other nuts and other ingredients. So that's why I'm doing a video just about cashews. Now, after you shape a cheese, you need to age it, or if you want to age, or if you want to eat shortly, you need to do something about salt. And if you look at dairy cheese, you would usually use a brine. So you brine the cheese, and that will absorb absorb some salt, you release some water, and then you create a rind. And with cashews, you can do it. That's what I did in this case. But because cashews, especially with cashews, like not only cashews, but in this case, cashews is especially complicated because it don't release a lot of water. So a lot of moisture will be trapped still, which makes very hard for it to dry off properly. So I prefer to work with dry salt on cashews because of that, instead of brining, because instead of getting like a dry cheese where all the moisture, excess moisture were drained out by the brine, you have actually a lot of moisture still inside. Um, that's some particularities of cashew cheese that I'm still working on. So what I want to say here is that if you look for the ricotta type and with the camembert and the blue cheese, which is I'm doing now for future videos, is a blue cheese. The bluebird is that you make a paste, you cook a little bit, like I showed in previous videos, but why it's so different is because of the starches, and I want to say this, but it's not only starches. So that's why when you have this piece here, this guy, when I remove from the farm tomorrow, so I leave about a couple of hours, at least 8 hours. So I would have something similar to this, but this is failure. So I did this the other day. I had some koji, and then we talk about our next topic, which is koji. And you want first to have a cheese like this one, and the second step is to age it. And if you think that applies for not only for cashew but all the other cheese, you might have had this delicious cashew cheese that after 2 months just tastes a little bit sour, a little bit better, but doesn't taste really not good enough to be considered a cheese. If you do the same thing on the dairy based, it just doesn't taste as tasty. Um, and what I came up with was, because I love Japanese fermentation, and that is something that white camembert will create flavors, blue cheese will create flavors, but without a mold, you won't create any flavors because the fermentation is not there. It's not developing the flavor that it should be. So if any of you, now I have 6 people watching, but if any of you can tell me, did you age a cheese, whatever cheese it is, for over 3 months? And if yes, did you notice a lot of difference in flavor or not? I'm just be curious to see, not camembert, blue cheese, anything else. Just say something. But what I want to say is that, so I came up with koji, which I mentioned many times here already, and is this Japanese mold, which has also a variety. So if you think about a koji mold, would be like it's a different type of family, but you think about camembert has a specific flavor, blue cheese because of the mold, blue cheese has a specific flavor because of the mold, and you have another mold that creates this umami flavor, which is a bit more generic. Um, yeah. And then is what is very interesting. And if you think about, Giga said it's 2 month aging and was a little bit of a development. If you take a dairy cheese for 2 months, it's a huge flavor development. If it's 2 weeks, it's already a huge flavor development, and that's what doesn't happen in the plant-based cheese, and that's what I'm working on now. The problem with aging for that long period is because it can easily be contaminated. And this is a failure because it is contaminated. It was winter here in Europe, springtime, so it was very cold, and I could just leave my cheese outside and don't mind about them. Yeah, it's not anymore. Now it's almost summertime. Well, it's summer officially, but it's Berlin, so it's summer with 16 degrees. Now it's 20. But anyway, it's warm enough to grow unwanted. So this is very yeasty. Some sort of yeast grew. Koji is here, and some you won't be able to see, but there have also black spots. So I know this is no good. This is garbage. I can't eat it, and that's because of the contamination of the environment. And if I'm back in Brazil, for example, if I would do the same cheese in Brazil, it would be so warm that it would just be completely contaminated with other things. So environment is important, and then you want to age it in a proper manner, and you want to add enzymes, which is the koji. Getting back in track, I'm trying to see if I can show you something that is more useful than let me get rice koji then. And like I mentioned before, this is just like if you think about a camembert. Oh, we can't show it, but a camembert, rice camembert. It's a mold that grows onto rice. I do for another type of variety with white beans, and that is this mold will grow, create enzymes, and I can use those enzymes in the cheese, in the pressed cheese. So all of this information, where's the recipe? Where's the practical application for all of what they were saying, Anderson? Well, that will come. That's why I'm writing a new book. That's why I'm trying to get all the information right. But there is those things that I'm doing this. So I had a cheese. I made this cheese, so to say. I salted in a brine, like I did with this one, but this is almond. But let's say it's cashews. And what happened is this: I want to age for a long time. This has been 3 days out, and it's covered on unwanted microorganisms. And that's when aging cheese is so complicated. And cashew is extra complicated because you can't drain it so well. So you could add less water, but that means also less moisture for the early fermentation, which is also important. You don't want just to end up with a very stiff paste and just expect it to taste delicious, because one of the main ingredient, one of the most important thing during fermentation is actually to have enough moisture, enough water, so all the microorganisms can live and thrive. And if you just make a stiff, dry paste and expect it to be delicious and ferment super nicely, it won't, because the water, the moisture is very important for the microorganisms, the enzymes, and everything else to work. So you have this naturally, if you think about dairy cheese, a very moist environment, and the cheese will gradually dry off unless you have cheese that will age for 2 years, like a Parmesan or something, and then you press a lot, and then you expel most of the water during pressing, but still there is enough moisture in it that will allow for flavor development. But if it had a lot of moisture and a lot of water, it will ferment faster. So it's tricky to get this balance out, and that's what I'm working on right now. So cashew-based cheese is tricky, but we're gonna solve. But what I want to show you is a short fermentation time, and for that you need something to help, and that's the koji. And this is a new product that I want to bring to you. Sorry, I'm just picking up. So what I did is I have this koji rice. You see like white dots, that's koji rice. If any of you who is watching have ever used koji for something before, give me a like or post in the comments. But I want to explain to you what I'm doing here. I need a spoon for that. And what I did is to dry this koji rice and make into a powder. And this powder you can think of as a bomb of enzymes, because koji is a powerhouse of enzymes. So camembert creates flavor because of enzymes, but the mold creates blue cheese creates flavor because of enzymes that the blue mold creates, and the koji creates this umami flavor from enzymes. And that's why when you are pressing the cheese, we forgot. I wanted to show you here. This is wrong. I wanted to add to this paste actually koji, and that was and I just form it without adding it. So I'm trying to put it back and try to form it again. So let me. This is so bad. Okay. I hope tomorrow I can unform this cheese because this is gonna be a disaster. So let me show you what is my disaster here. So I have the paste. This is the cheese. This is the cashew cheese. This is Cashewbert recipe on my booklet. What I'm doing to it is adding about 1 teaspoon of koji powder. And then, so you can't really see much, but let me see here. You can't really see, but there's some powder in it. And what I want to do also is to add salt already. And now I can form it. And then now I can form. And what I'm doing is actually adding then the koji enzymes. So I add like a spoonful of a coffee spoon of salt, but all the measurements I'm still tweaking and see, because you need enough salt for protection, but you don't want over salted, and so on and so on. So this is all things that I'm still working out, but this is the principle that I'm working with, that I'm mixing it. Yeah, Cashewbert is not mine, but I don't sell the cheese anymore. I work with another company for making the cheese here in Germany, and then it's you can make your own, but I'm pretty sure it's good. But there's nothing like make your own cheese, because then you can really make it in a high quality. So I put it back. So I added the koji, I added salt, and now I'm trying to press, and I'm hoping that after making this mess here, I'm gonna be able to unform tomorrow without breaking it. But it will drain. I still need to press it. So I might add a weight. So I'm just adding an empty glass to the form to help drain a bit quicker. But you don't want to over press it, because cashew don't have the structure of an almond cheese. An almond cheese you can press much better. I will leave like this for now, and then later today I will add some water to this glass and make it heavier, so I can press it better. So so this is the magic what I'm talking here. So koji, if you think about most of the vegan cheese, what they would do is to add nutritional yeast and some other flavorings, and then just mix into the cheese, and then bam, you have a tasty cheese, like this umami flavor. But I'm not a fan of it, because I think each product, each ingredient has the potential to be delicious if you do it properly. That's why I use koji, that is a enzyme power bond that will break down the proteins and the fats and the starches, but not much important in this case. And by doing that, we create this umami flavor of the protein itself, of the protein of the cashews, protein of the almonds, proteins of other ingredients. And that's when I think that is much more interesting than just adding nutritional yeast. And nowadays, like paprika chips here in Germany has nutritional yeast, and it just tastes so generic, like this cheese flavor, if you think so, for Cheetos or whatever product you have. So I want a real developed, deep flavor. And for that, you need to age, and to age a vegan cheese, you need something, and this powerhouse of koji is perfect for it. I'm not sure if you've ever seen, I would show you, for example, soy sauce, which is a bomb of flavors. And let me show you something. I'm be right there. I usually make miso and soy sauce. This is soy sauce. And I want to explain to you a little bit why do I love so much koji. It's ugly, what I'm gonna show you, but and it smells funky, but I can assure you it's quite delicious. So this is how soy sauce is made. Usually in Japan, I saw it and they would have some stones here to help to press it down. And then if you see the liquid, it was just water and salt on a koji base. And if you see it here, can you see this is soy sauce? So I would just ferment this for a month, and this paste, which is soy sauce, soybeans and koji and some wheat, will break down, or rice. I don't know if it's because I got this already mixed, but this is this little balls. I don't know if you can see it. That's this starter, so to say. So that's like the base that was dried out, and then you just add brine, and then you have soy sauce. And then you let it ferment. And what happens, why it's brown, is actually from the breakdown of the nutrients. Yeah, tamari, yes, which is a type of soy sauce. And the same principle that I'm applying here, I'm applying to vegan cheese. So you want, and that's basically what cheese also is. So cheese is nothing more than break the peptides and broken down proteins, just like tamari, just like soy sauce, just like miso paste, this flavor, this umami flavor. And that's what you're doing here. And for that guy takes weeks and months to develop a lot of flavors. But because cheese is yeah, that one I used mame koji. I used bean koji, and for this recipe, because I'm using rice, but at Cashewbert I will have both. I will have mame koji and I will have rice koji. So because I find that mame koji becomes too intense. So if you want something lighter, the rice koji is much better. But if you want something like an aged cheese flavor, amame koji is ideal because it has a lot of protease and a lot of umami potential. So what is happening now? Why? So cashews. If you think I want to make cheese, recipes will come. This live is not to give you all sort of nice little tricks and how to make the best cheese, but actually to give you the base of what makes a good cheese. And the first one is how to choose your ingredients. If you're using soy, I'm working on a soy base back here. So this is more experiment yet because I haven't worked with soy in a while. This is just soy milk with coconut milk, but I would try to get this recipe in the coming weeks as an alternative for people who don't want to work with cashew or almonds. But then I have the almond cheese here, which will come in a few weeks. This is with white koji. And then I have a cashew base, which is what I'm doing here. And this guy, I added salt and koji. I also add salt and koji to the almond base. And this is the basic for a longer ripened cheese. What I'm doing right now is that I'm gonna release a kind of grill type of cheese. Takes 2-3 days to get ready. It tastes delicious. It doesn't like grilled cheese, more or less. So this is, and it's just a normal cheese. Won't melt. There's nothing like starches or anything to make it meltable. You might want to try it, but I'm not sure if you can succeed it. But what I want to make sure you get is the basics of vegan cheese and why cashew is different, why koji, and from here on, I want to go further onto the aging of the cheese. So we'll get in the next live stream, as soon as I have the recipe ready, will be about the grilled cheese, my new product. So I'm making the koji available. There will be a kit for making this kind of cheese and 2 new recipes. So a cashew-based koji and a almond-based koji, eventually also soy koji. If this looks promising, I will work it further. Otherwise, I have a soy koji, but it's an older one. I want something that is quick and still tastes good. So those recipes will come, and you'll be able to buy koji ready to go from Cashewbert, starting not this Monday, 23rd, the Monday after. So we'll be selling koji directly on Cashewbert, like in small packages. You just need a teaspoon of dried rice koji or bean koji, and then you can make your cheese just like that, just mixing, and then you have the recipe ready, and so on. So this is the basics that I want to give to you. If you have questions about how to make vegan cheese with the Vizyme, you can take a look on the booklet. The recipes are already there. Cascoda is my recipe to go because you can get the principles there very easily. Otherwise, the Camembert is great also. And then you go to a grilled cheese, which is the new recipe that I'm going to release very soon. And then you have the aged cheese, which will be only on my new book, because then it contains a lot of details on how to salt, why to salt this way or that way, how to make a brine, how to keep your brine, how to keep your cheese, when do you need to clean your cheese to avoid contaminants and other stuff, because dairy cheese has very specific times, pH, draining, and so on, which is hard to apply for vegan cheese. And that's why I'm writing a book, and the book will be packed with that kind of information. And I'm researching here and there, learning from the basic mistakes, what people can do that might go wrong. So the book will be foolproof. Yeah, so using koji in anything, so you can, if you have 50 to 60 degrees, you can 55. It's about the same, yeah, Amazaki. The problem, there's a lot of things about it. So let's say, especially cashews, if you do this, you are breaking down the proteins, and then you are destroying the basics of vegan cheese texture. So if you break down the starches and the proteins doing around like a Mazaki style, you are creating a soup of nutrients, and that soup of nutrients you can't really compact again with just basically curdling, because the proteins has been broken down, the starches has been broken down, so you don't have the structure anymore. So that's why you want a cheese to be first firm and solid and have everything that it needs, and slowly break down into flavors. If you want to do the other way around, you are gonna back to the basics of, you could just use miso paste, like this is the same idea, because in the end you just have a soup of micronutrients, amino acids, peptidases, like sugars and not more starches, and then you don't have anything to hold that together. Even you add Vizyme or transglutaminase, the transglutaminase needs a whole protein to be broken down and bind together. If you have just peptidase there and amino acids, it won't hold anything. That's why it wouldn't work to do that way. But if you use that as a base for coconut oil, starches, and do something else, that could be a start. On the other hand, it's a great way of knowing what kind of flavor you get. So if you do this Amazaka style on a cashew base, you can, and do it at 55 degrees Celsius, you get an idea of what flavors will come, but that's only a small percentage of the flavor, because a cheese flavor also has yeast, the bacteria. It has different times of breaking down the proteins in different shapes, and every different shape of the protein will have a different flavor. That's why you don't want to accelerate the process. You want to start with something and then break down. But if you want to have an idea, you can, but that's harder for you to control. So I hope you get a good overview of what I'm talking about. It's a lot of things. Like I add words that you might not know. What's coding? What's curdling? What is this? What's that? Um, don't panic. This live is not to be the basics. I want to give you a feedback, and then on my new book there will be everything packed together, all the information in details for you. But I want to share with you what I've been learning all those years. So I'm Anderson from Cashewbert. Thank you for watching, and I see you next time. Have a great evening.